What's up, YouTube? Zach's back with another attack, and today we're going to be talking about This Is Us. This is one of my favorite shows, as you can tell by my Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother ducky tie. I am a fan of TV, and as you can tell by my This Is Us tissues that I got from the theatrical showing of the first episode of This Is Us, you can tell that I am a big fan of this show. I am a little late to the game of talking about the episodes because I wasn't really thinking about doing YouTube for the kind of thing at that time, but now I want to talk about every episode of Season 2 of This Is Us, starting obviously with Season 2, Episode 1, and we're gonna get right into it. But first, why did the police officer smell so bad? Because he was on duty.
Zach's back with another attack, so come on in and just relax. Hit subscribe and join the fun. You're Zach to the future now, son.
Alright guys, so let's get right into talking about the first episode of Season 2 of This Is Us on NBC. This is a great show. They always have lots of great story arcs. It draws you in emotionally and really keeps you going. Plus the story kind of weaves in and out of the past, the future, the present, and it's always got an interesting twist that keeps you interested and fills you in on the story layer by layer, but not necessarily in a straight up and down kind of way. It jumps around and weaves it in a really unique way that I haven't seen from many other shows, and I've definitely not seen it from any other shows successfully to the level of This Is Us. So, before I really get going, there is going to be spoilers in this. If you haven't seen the first episode, then definitely watch that. Watch the first season before you start this. It's a great show. You'll love it, I promise. So, I'm going to be talking about this episode just kind of generally to get started. This episode begins with everybody's 37th birthday. It is the Big Three's 37th birthday. Would have been Jack's birthday, but in present time, he is dead. Which is something that we figure out a little bit more about in this episode. I did think that the fake smoking was weird that Randall and his wife were doing. I don't think they've done that in any other episodes. So it's a little weird to just have them go outside and pretend like they're smoking. This show's very realistic until that very much threw me off. I was like, why are they doing that? That's weird. Who does that? And everybody kind of showed a mean side in this episode. Randall's wife, Beth, kind of showed a mean side when she said they should get a kid who was abandoned on a firehouse steps because that's how Randall was, and that was pretty mean. Also, Toby was consistently mean through this episode, but he had good reasons. You know, he was trying to get Kevin to back off a little bit of Kate. Jack was a little mean because not only did we go back to the fight they had in the last episode of Season 1, but we also see him being a little drunk and telling her to leave. And Rebecca is mean because she doesn't forgive Jack after their big fight when he's trying to make things work again. Everyone's meanness is kind of woven throughout this, and it's kind of interesting, but at the same time, it threw me off because some of their characters don't really seem like they would be that way, especially Toby. He's always been kind of easygoing. It's some good character development, I guess, but at times it did get to be borderline unbelievable for his character. As always, the music in this show is brilliant, really goes with everything that's going on in the story, and Kate's character development is just incredible. I love what they're doing with her character. She's becoming a very strong person through not caring as much about her weight, realizing that if she works for what she wants, she can achieve all kinds of things, and seeing that she doesn't need Toby to push her, and she does not need Kevin to babysit her, essentially. This episode also really shows again why Jack is an amazing man and why everyone's depressed that he's dead. Of course, he goes and tries to get Rebecca some gigs, even saying that he'll pay the place to hire Rebecca to play there, and it doesn't work, but of course that was amazing to see him do that. I don't want to get into the ending quite yet, but we're definitely going to go in depth on that in just a moment here, so let's go down the characters a little bit. Randall was great in this episode. He was, of course, the same old Randall, but we also saw him in his teenage years a little bit more, which was very interesting. He actually saw the fight with his parents, and that was really cool too, because we didn't know anybody saw that. So knowing that one of the kids saw that and seeing how he kind of deals with it in the modern day is interesting, as he talks to Rebecca and says that he knows they didn't have a perfect marriage. I'm very curious if she ever found out that he knew about that fight. Next up is Beth. Like I said, she did have a very mean moment, but it kind of was rationalized, and as the episode went on, they made up for it. I do think because of the way they made up for it, it did seem a little bit like she shouldn't have done that. But I agree that Randall was being a little crazy and that he was starting to get to the point where everything that he wanted was what he expected to happen and didn't account for himself having 2 kids and having a wife that needs taken care of as well. Even just inviting his dad William into the house without really talking to everybody else about how it impacts them was kind of something that he should have thought of. Speaking of which, William is a great character. He's back and he's dead, of course, but he has some vocal overdubs reading his poems, which is really cool. I wonder if they're going to keep doing that for all of the episodes through this season. That could be an interesting way to go about things. I am also liking how they're doing some flashbacks of him talking to Beth to have him still play a role in people's lives, things that we hadn't seen before. And of course, Tess and Annie, who are Randall and Beth's children. The only thing I really have to say about them is that if they are adopting a kid, Randall and Beth that is, they should really talk to their daughters about it. He says that they haven't told their kids yet, but they're sure they'll love it. And at the end of the episode, they decide to adopt a kid who's a little bit older rather than adopting a newborn. And I still think that, especially if it's going to be an older kid, especially if it's older than the kids they already have, their kids really need to be talked to about this before that decision becomes finalized. It's one thing to have a baby brother and kind of help raise it, but if they get a kid who's older than their daughters they already have, then that is such a big deal that their daughters need to have some kind of input. That's major change to their life, and they're not the only ones who are being affected by this. Next up, we have Kevin and Sophie. Sophie's not really in this episode a whole lot. She is in the beginning, and we figure out that her mom has MS, and she is not going to visit Kevin. They're trying to make things work long distance, but in the end, she does show up, so that's really cool. And as for Kevin, his movie career seems to be going well. He's in the middle of shooting, and they make a cake of his face. I really liked that. That was great. There was another joke, too, where they talked about how women can do anything they want to, and they specifically mentioned Hillary Clinton. Randall does, that is, and then his daughters are like, she lost. So I do like the topical humor that they're throwing in. That's really cool. Kevin's also kind of learning how to be apart from his sister, because she doesn't really know how to be. He's starting to get used to his ex-wife, and on that note, I kind of wonder how he did so well in the past, having an ex-wife, having a wife at the time, while being so dependent on Kate, and Kate being so dependent on him. Seems like that would affect the marriage with them a little bit, especially with his wife, Sophie, being Kate's former best friend. And Kate and Toby, of course, Toby's trying to get used to Kevin being in the picture, and Kate's trying to get her singing career off the ground, and she leaves the audition before doing any audition because she's afraid that she won't get picked because of her weight. Now, that's a good storyline in and of itself, but I think the message is a little weird because you can lose weight, and I think that the way they displayed the message in this episode, which is basically her going back in at the end and the guy saying, I'm not discarding you because you are overweight, I'm discarding you because you're not a good singer. And I feel like that's the wrong message to send because, yeah, they're trying to say you can practice singing, you can get better, but you can also work to lose weight. And earlier in the episode, Toby actually says that she needs pushed, and she says she does not need pushed, but I think she does, not only to be a better singer and try to do things outside of her comfort zone, such as auditioning for this singing thing, but also to just lose weight. And I think that Toby's really good for that. Oh, now we have Rebecca. She is great in this episode, and her acting is on fleek. Mandy Moore is just a great actress, and the emotion that she pays to every scene she is in this episode is very, very good. The drama and tenseness with her and Jack is very believable, and I'm glad that Mandy Moore is able to pull that off on such a level that you can believe everything, because if it wasn't believable, this show would be nothing. And Miguel, man, Miguel. Everyone hates on Miguel, but I do think that he's a good character, and we're just about to get into that with talking about the ending of this episode. Now, the end of this episode has Rebecca coming over to Miguel's house because Jack is staying there after their big fight and getting basically kicked out of the house, and she tells him to come home. He says that he has a bad drinking problem and he has been hiding it from her and the kids for a long time. He tells her he's not leaving Miguel's and he is going to continue trying to get over his drinking problem before he comes home. And she forces him to come home, essentially. And then, while she is saying that things are going to be okay with them, it shows her driving alone, pans down to a baggie with some of Jack's things in it, I believe. And then it goes to the kids sitting in Miguel's house, goes to Kevin, who is in a cast now, and it's very strange. He's kissing Sophie. Randall and Kate are in Miguel's house crying, and then Rebecca continues driving until she gets to the Pearson house, and it has burnt down, it appears. And we don't know the whole story, we don't know what happens. Miguel does seem to hand Kate and Randall some kind of a bag, and Kate has a puppy now, which is very, very interesting. She did not have a puppy in any other time that we have seen her. And because Kevin is in a cast, I do have some theories. So I just wanted to make everything clear that that's how the ending happened, and we will get into some speculation now. So, speculation's a little tricky with the show. Last time we thought we knew how Jack died, he was driving away drunk, driving to where Rebecca was. Everybody thought he was going to get in a car accident drunk driving. Now we're pretty sure that's not what happened, but we're not entirely sure. Maybe that did happen and the house just burnt down. We don't even know. And one thing that could happen is maybe Jack was drunk driving and got in an accident where Kevin broke his leg, and then something because of that incident killed him later. I don't know. Many people think that this house fire is how Jack died, and I do think that that is true. What I think happened is that Kate's new dog was in the house. Maybe Jack spilled some alcohol because of his drinking problem. The dog knocked over some kind of a candle or something. Maybe Kate insisted on getting a dog and the dog knocked something over or did something that somehow lit the house on fire. Jack made it out but was injured and then later died from those injuries. Or maybe he ran back in to try and save this dog and save the dog but got injured badly in the process, and I don't know. The whole thing is very complex and confusing, but it will very easily be cleared up when the writers want it to be cleared up. They're very good with things like this. But it's very interesting to know that there's a dog. It's very interesting to know that Kate now has a dog, that she blames herself for Jack's death, which she has said previously, and that Kevin is in a cast. And that's very strange because you think something happened involving Jack where he got that cast that has to have some importance, and then he doesn't know that Jack has died. If he got that cast in the house fire and Jack died in the house fire, he would know. But since he doesn't, I don't think Jack died actually in the house fire. So I'm pretty sure he got injured somehow from this house fire, got out, and later died from things that were happening from this house fire, unless the house fire happened and Kevin got that cast from some kind of drunk driving accident with Jack. But only time will tell, guys. I just wanted to get this video out for you. We're going to be talking about episode 2 very soon, and then we're going to get back on track talking about the episodes as soon as possible after we watch them. And Ashley's going to be joining me too, so that'll be very exciting. Keep on watching, guys. I'm Zach. Don't you do crack, and I'll catch you in the future.